Hey everybody, this is going to be the build video of my 2004 Chevy Colorado with 5.3 LS swap, and all of the factory gauges, the climate control, all that stuff works. And this is going to be a pretty long video, so I'm treating it more as just a reference if you want to do this rather than an entertainment thing. The editing's pretty coarse, and I just want to get this information out before I forget it. So this is where I started. Like I said, it's an 04 Colorado. That's the very first model, year model. I do a lot of towing with it, and I had over 300,000 miles on the 5-cylinder. So I stumbled across all these parts here you see in this post where a guy was going to V8 swap his 2009. So I ended up buying it. I had to beg my parents to go pick it up in, I think it was Massachusetts? They were towing it all the way through New York City and all the way back to Texas for me. So I cannot thank them enough. So here's me starting the teardown of the truck, pulling the 5-cylinder out of there. This took longer than I kind of expected.
Okay, sit rep. Drive shaft is out of the transmission. Let that drain for a bit. I had the issue of leaving the intake on, and it was hitting the firewall and potentially damaging that brake line and this AC line. Definitely take that off before you pull this motor. Same thing goes for the header. You can see the header there is colliding with this engine mount, and that's welded to the frame, so I can't remove that.
Like I said, this took quite a while, but eventually I got it out, and you'll see it was nighttime by the time I pulled it out. If you want to make this easier on yourself, you can separate the transmission, but I was trying to not do that. So here is the V8. It's an LH8, which is an aluminum head, aluminum block, Gen 4 LS that comes in things like the, I think if the Avalanche has it, the Hummer, the Colorados. I also got the OEM cast manifolds, which was really, really handy. There are a ton of differences though with the 2004 truck compared to the later years where they put the V8 in the Colorados from the factory. Okay, so I've run into a lot of issues with my 2004 Colorado on this V8 swap. The fuel lines are totally different for the 09 and 04 trucks, and power steering as well is different for the V8, and now I'm looking at AC. The AC line will fit. If you get a V8 AC line to the compressor, it will fit. However, going out of the compressor into the condenser is where I've had issues. The fitting is the same, except that you'll see the bolt hole goes on top for the V8, whereas on my i5 condenser here, the bolt is on the bottom. So if you decide to buy a V8 condenser, it also relocates a lot of these dryer bolts and fittings, so you would have to get all different lines from the dryer all the way around the whole truck. I think that I'm going to attempt to take my i5 line here, which has the bolt hole on the bottom. I'm going to try slicing off that piece there and welding it to the bottom of this. It won't take any pressure, it's just got to hold the bolt on. I'm not sure what alloy this is, but I've got my TIG here, and I haven't run this on AC mode yet, but it should do it just fine. I've got some filler rod here, ER 4043. Alright, so don't roast my welds here too much, but what I can say is that they worked. I know there's pores in them and all that, but this is pretty thick metal to cut on a 110 volt welder, and it worked, at least so far. Unfortunately, a lot of the OEM parts for the V8 truck are discontinued, so I had to buy some parts that just sucked, like the Volant airbox. I also decided I should do the brakes while I was in there, which really I would recommend because the drum brakes on this truck are not that great to start. After talking with a lot of folks here, I'm pretty sure that I just got a bad shifter cable, so I don't think other people will have to do this. Also, while I was in there, I decided to fix my parking brake. It wouldn't stay down, and I realized that the spring here was getting caught, so I just cut it a little bit shorter, and that seemed to fix my issues. Also, the older trucks have less firewall space, so I did some percussive maintenance. Fabit makes a ton of really nice parts for these trucks, including a power steering kit that lets you run your V8 pump with the 5 or 4 cylinder rack. I initially also ran the OEM V8 radiator with all of my original condenser stuff and just a single fan. You'll see here I put it on a cookie sheet, and this worked for a while, but because I'm towing and I'm in a pretty hot climate, it just did not last. Here's mounting up the exhaust. Again, heat is a pretty big issue here, so I was trying to keep the brake lines as shielded from all that temperature as I could. That's something you have to bear in mind if you're going to run cats, is that you have even less space. There's a lot of talk about drive shafts. Now, more than likely, you'll be able to reuse your stock drive shaft. I actually had a shop retube mine because I wasn't happy with the amount of stick out I had here. It's just look at yours, put it together and see. You can probably reuse the stock one. It's also worth noting that the regular cabs have a single piece, and if you have a extended or crew cab, it's going to be a 2-piece. I threw some of these pack brake airbags on it for towing. Again, on the topic of heat, automatic transmission lines get really close to a lot of hot things. So at this point, the truck started to really take shape. And one of the things I had to look at was wiring. I was kind of dreading it, and I had the help of Jamie. He goes by 04 Collie ZQ8 on the forums. He's the man. He's out in Canada, and he helped me turn this 2009 current performance harness into one that would be compatible with my 2004. It also involved reprogramming the PCM and TCM, which was no small feat. I cannot thank him enough. He was extremely helpful, especially when current performance wasn't. Now, I still had to do a bunch of rewiring at the firewall and repin some connectors, but I'm sure that was half the task that he had. The truck also got some typical stuff like new suspension on the front and new steering rack because my old one was leaking. It's in park.
Okay.
No fuel.
No cranking?
No.
Okay.
Just crank it a few times.
Okay.
Yes! Very lurchy. Okay, so I drove the truck for about 6 months with the automatic 4L60E, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to get a stick in it. So I bought this truck out of Louisiana that had an engine fire, but it also had a manual transmission. So I took all the parts from it and swapped them into my truck, which actually went pretty well. Now, I had to swap brake pedals, I had to buy this Fabit kit and reuse the 4L60 bell housing, but it actually went pretty smoothly. The worst part about it was rewiring, which, again, Jamie helped with, and I cannot thank him enough. Some little things along the way include this resonator I added to get rid of some of the drone. That's called a J-pipe. I also put the ECP radiator in there with some dual spowl fans, which, by the way, I had to cut the water pump pulley nub off to make this fit, but it did fit. And since then, man, the truck's been awesome. So if you have any questions, just shoot them my way. There's so many things here that I tried to include, but the video would just take hours if I had everything. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped.